Siwit stands firm in his purple aura, declaring that 2 centuries of humiliation were just the warm-up for this exact moment. With a bloodied face and glowing red eyes, he screams a promise to return fully prepared and absolutely wreck his opponent next time. He glares through the surging energy, vowing that every single cursed demon is going to die. Demonic visage grins menacingly, chuckling darkly as it admits it's actually looking forward to the challenge. A massive column of purple energy erupts from the ground, marking him as the only human worthy of acknowledgement. We cut to the Central Plains Murim, where traditional buildings sit quietly under the night sky. Suddenly, a jagged bolt of purple lightning smashes into the central pagoda, lighting up the dark clouds. The impact shatters the tiled roof, sending debris flying while dark smoke billows up from the crash site. Murim lies unconscious on the broken floorboards amidst the wreckage, with bold text ticking down the days until the demon invasion. He rests his head on the damaged wood, eyes closed with a faint, mysterious smile lingering on his lips. His eyes snap open, glowing red with a sinister smirk as he reveals the countdown is exactly 10 years. The scene shifts to the Dragon Spring Academy, basking majestically under the bright sun. En's hammer nails into roof tiles, creating sharp metallic clangs against the clear blue sky. A worker complains about the sudden lightning strike, while his colleague agrees it was strong enough to wreck the training ground's roof. Sweating nervously, another worker remarks they're lucky only the loser got hurt, prompting an angry voice to question that label. Zabigging groans in pain on the shattered stone, a broken blade nearby, as bystanders mock the vice instructor for lacking inner energy. One worker notes the injuries aren't fatal per rumors, then chuckles darkly, wishing the guy had suffered way worse. Voices explain that today is his public execution, overlooking a crowded courtyard where guards watch from a raised platform. The elder clasps his hands, formally announcing the start of the duel for the spear assistant instructor position. A spectator raises a fist to shout the official start, while the crowd in dark uniforms cheers enthusiastically behind him. The spearman stands ready, his weapon surrounded by a menacing red energy aura. He charges forward, the red aura intensifying around his spear as he closes the distance rapidly. The spearman thrusts forward, causing the red energy to erupt violently as he strikes his target. He stands with his spear lowered, watching the red energy dissipate into the air around him. Warrior screams in pure rage, his face contorted and eyes glowing white with intense combat fury. He raises his spear, face twisted in anger and eyes blazing white as he prepares for the next strike. Thrusting forward with a contorted expression, he unleashes a powerful surge of red energy. Again, he raises his spear, his rage-fueled white eyes locked on his prey as he winds up for another hit. He thrusts the spear forward once more, his glowing eyes and twisted face signaling another burst of red energy. The warrior lifts his spear again, his expression a mask of rage and his eyes shining white with deadly intent. Another thrust comes flying out, unleashing yet another surge of red energy from his glowing, furious form. He raises the spear high, his face contorted and eyes glowing white as he readies himself to strike again. The spear thrusts forward with brutal force, releasing a fresh wave of red energy from his enraged, glowing eyes. Once more he lifts his spear, his rage-distorted face and white eyes promising another violent attack. He drives the spear forward, his contorted expression and glowing eyes unleashing another surge of red power. The warrior raises his spear again, his face twisted in rage and eyes glowing white as he prepares to strike. He thrusts forward with intense fury, his glowing white eyes accompanying another blast of red energy. Screaming in rage, he thrusts his spear forward, unleashing a massive surge of red energy that lights up the darkness. He stands amidst the fading red energy, his face still contorted in rage with those eerie glowing white eyes. With his spear lowered, he stares forward with glowing white eyes as the red energy fades around him. He remains standing with his spear down, his glowing white eyes fixed ahead as the last bits of energy vanish. Exhaustion finally takes over, and he collapses to his knees as the white glow fades from his eyes. Warrior lies unconscious on the ground, his spear resting beside him as the red aura completely disappears. The elder and a disciple stand over the fallen fighter, observing his condition with serious, concerned expressions. Stroking his long gray beard, the elder looks down and expresses genuine concern over the severity of the young warrior's state. He gestures toward the unconscious body, instructing the disciple to carry him away for immediate treatment. The disciple lifts the unconscious warrior into his arms, preparing to rush him off for medical help. He carries the limp body away from the scene, leaving the aftermath behind. The elder watches them depart, his expression grave as he turns his attention back to the remaining situation. He stands with a heavy, solemn look, observing the quiet aftermath of the battle. The elder remains still amidst the wreckage, his grave expression reflecting the weight of the scene. He continues to stand solemnly, observing the scene with a deeply serious and grave demeanor. The elder holds his position, his solemn gaze fixed on the aftermath with an unchanging, grave expression. He gazes forward, his face set in a look of pure solemnity. Standing amidst the ruins, the elder observes the scene with a consistently grave and serious expression. He remains solemn in the aftermath, his grave expression unwavering as he surveys the damage. The elder lowers his head in sorrow, taking a moment to mourn the fallen. Lifting his head with determination, he resolves to continue the fight despite the heavy losses incurred. He raises his hand, channeling blue energy to form a defensive barrier against the incoming threat. Standing firm behind the shimmering blue shield, his resolute expression shows he is ready to withstand the assault. The elder braces himself as the blue barrier shatters under the overwhelming force of the impact. He collapses to his knees, blood streaming from his mouth as the remnants of his broken barrier fade away. The elder lies motionless on the ground, eyes closed and body still as the dust settles around him. Siwit stands over the fallen elder, his red eyes glowing with a menacing aura as he prepares the final blow. He raises his hand, dark energy coalescing around his fingers as he aims to to strike the unconscious elder. Suddenly, he lowers his hand and halts the attack, staring down at the elder with a cold, calculating expression. Siwitz turns away from the fallen figure, his dark armor radiating a purple aura as he walks into the shadows. Boy Saw Bigging is sprawled out on the tiles, looking like he just got absolutely wrecked. He casually tells the guy on the stretcher it was a good fight, while the white-robed NPC next to him nearly sharts his pants in shock. Sweat pours down his face as the crowd questions if that mess was even martial arts, with one nerd muttering something about heat-yang finger arts. Elder bares his teeth in pure rage, while our hero points a trembling finger, screaming that this whole situation is total nonsense. Saw Bigging struts away with his staff as some random voice congratulates Instructor Saw Bigging on the win. The elder grimly admits defeat, but demands to know how internal energy was used when they thought he had none. Our main character just gives a faint smile and claims it was purely luck. The elder's eyes go wide as he repeats the word luck, like his brain just short-circuited. Running from a snapping red flower, he explains he accidentally ate some weird herb during a walk a few days ago. Purple energy erupts around his clenched fists as he shouts that he suddenly gained the ability to use internal energy. He smiles with closed eyes, claiming he thankfully has a bunch of internal energy, prompting someone to scream if he's kidding them. The elder glares with a clenched fist, shouting about the audacity of spouting such nonsense to his elders. Turning his back on the seated instructors, he states it's their choice to believe him, asking what it even matters, which makes the group shout in shock. Smirking confidently, he asks if he actually cheated, pointing out there was no rule against using anything but spears in the duel for the teaching position. His eye glares through shadowed bangs as he complains about being interrogated when he clearly won fair and square. Elder grits his teeth and screams him, in fury, while another voice tries to tell him to calm down. Placing a hand on the furious man's shoulder, the elder concedes that he is right and admits he lost the fight. Saw Bigging raises a hand to interrupt, apologizing for the break just as a voice starts declaring his reward for winning. He declares he has a request since everyone is present, causing the elder to look on in surprise and ask if it's truly a request. A boot slams into the floor with sharp impact as he officially requests a test for promotion to official instructor. Standing firmly with hands clasped in a formal salute, he keeps his spear upright on the ground beside him. Brown boots with gold diamond accents stand firmly on the paved street. Striding forward with determination, he leaves two men in purple robes recoiling behind him in sheer fear. He stands with a faint smile as the two purple-robed guys freak out, one pointing and asking if that's the dude from the duel. Turning his head slightly, he wears a calm, confident smirk that screams composed superiority. He stands before the Dragon Spring Academy, the martial hall built by the Orthodox Alliance to stop hardship in the junks. Walking past a traditional building at night, we learn the Dragon Spring Academy was once the best of the top 3 Orthodox martial academies. The elder stands in shadows as narration reveals the academy master, and a top 10 martial master vanished 2 years ago. Clasping his hands above the grounds, the elder reflects on the 2-year failed search and the institution's lost fame due to the missing master. Two hands press against wooden sliding doors to push them open, accompanied by a narration box stating, additionally. Sitting behind a long table, the elder addresses Saw Bigging's back, stating he will check one last time regarding assistant instructor Saw Bigging. Staring intensely with a furrowed brow, Blade Technique Senior Instructor and Vice Academy Master Jin Semyoung asks if the promotion request is serious. Smiling with closed eyes, our hero confirms it to the Vice Academy Master, while Tex declares this piece of shit is the accelerant of the Dragon Spring Academy's fall. Two hands press hard against the dark gap between the wooden doors. The elder sits behind a long table, declaring he'll check one last time on Assistant Instructor Saw Bigging, while a disciple watches and our boy stands with hands clasped behind his back. Glaring with stern authority, the Vice Academy Master asks if this promotion request is actually serious. Saw Bigging freezes, his wide amber eyes locked in shock as he processes the intense questioning. A building erupts in flames under the title marking the day of the demon's invasion. Trembling with blood on his face, Saw Bigging stands amidst the chaos as great ruptures tear open from all sides. Colossal white spider monster looms over a green-skinned warrior, signaling the start of indiscriminate killing. Watching in horror, Semyoung Saw screams as a multi-limbed demon towers over the fleeing civilians, marking the demon race invasion. 3 young disciples stand back to back in the debris, with the center one trembling and shouting for everyone to stay back. King Bigging stares up in shock at a massive dragon-like head, realizing they're being ruthlessly slaughtered. Turning sharply in the ruins, he shouts for Instructor June to hurry, marking that fateful day. He watches in shock as the elder and a disciple walk away through the burning ruins, their backs turned while a bright white aura radiates from the elder. Disciple sweats profusely while clutching a treasure chest overflowing with gold, as the elder stands behind him holding a sword, proving Jung Semyoung ran away first. Flames engulf the crumbling academy, highlighting how reporting the situation could have prevented so many deaths. Sitting with his back turned at the table, Saw Bigging vividly remembers the screams of the disciples sacrificed that day. Hands in the darkness, expressionless as the purple light vanishes. Amid swirling purple energy, narration explains they secretly planted equipment in worlds they plan to invade. A large purple mana stone glows, recovering mana but remaining useless to those from the central plains. A hand crackles with intense purple lightning, gripping the stone until it fractures under the surge. Saw Bigging reaches forward with glowing energy, declaring that this state of affairs lasted only until now. Moss-covered rock pillars rise beneath a bright sun and swirling magical aura. A vertical beam of purple energy erupts from the ground, shattering stone and sending debris flying. Blue petals drift down through rain streaks over a misty, dark forest landscape. 2 pairs of boots stand on cracked blue ground, casting long shadows under the falling petals. 6 armed warriors, including a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes, stand in a menacing formation amidst the petals. Bald warrior with a scarred face looks back nervously, telling the stronghold master that nothing seems amiss. The elder glares from behind a large black blade, demanding if he's being accused of a mistake, causing the bald warrior to panic. The stronghold master commands his subordinates to shut up and search thoroughly, insisting he felt an energy explosion. Smirking menacingly, the stronghold master states that losers like the bald warrior would never know, making the subordinate recoil. Sitting atop a rock, Saw Bigging claps and exclaims he knew the figure was a peak realm martial master, praising the demonic knight stronghold master. The stronghold master glares with bared teeth, demanding to know who the other person is. Resting his chin on his hand, Saw Bigging asks if they are referring to him. Smirking while holding the glowing purple magical circle, he identifies himself as an instructor of the Dragon Spring Academy. Perched on a rock with glowing purple peepers, our boy Saw Bigging wonders if the hype is actually about him. Flashing a grin in a magic circle, he casually drops that he's an instructor at Dragon Spring Academy. The trio of extras loses their minds, questioning why a faculty member from such a prestigious school is lurking in this dump. Long-haired NPC behind them snaps, ordering the chatterboxes to shut their traps, which makes the eye patch guy flinch hard. Gripping his weapon with burning red eyes, the bandaged warrior asks if this clown is claiming credit for the earlier energy blast. Resting his chin on his fist with supreme confidence, Saw Bigging just asks, "What if I did?" The NPC whips his head around in confusion, screaming, "Huh," as red energy erupts violently behind him. He braces himself against the massive explosion, tensing up as debris flies from the blinding white center of the blast. Baring his teeth in a savage glare, he declares that killing this opponent is the sole reason he showed up. With one glowing red eye piercing through gray bandages, Saw Bigging coolly asks if that's really the case. Our hero blocks a surge of purple energy with his pink-bladed sword, grimacing as the impact sends him flying backward. He swings a massive arc of condensed purple energy downward, his determined face dominating the frame. Descending like a wrathful god, he slices through the crowd, leaving shocked enemies bleeding out in his wake. NPC freezes, his face draining of color as terror takes hold from the overwhelming display of power. A purple gauntleted hand glows beside a floating sword, while a voice dryly remarks on the sheer coincidence of it all. That same gauntlet grips the hilt, causing the blade to flash with intense violet light 3 times in rapid succession. Grinning sinisterly, Saw Bigging reveals he also came here to kill the other guy, radiating pure menacing intent. His purple blade clashes against the NPC's pink sword, creating a bright explosion of light as the bandaged warrior grimaces under the strain. The NPC grins menacingly through the clash, demanding that Saw Bigging pay for the lives of his subordinates. His glowing red and teeth bared, he shouts in shock, demanding to know exactly who he is fighting. A massive explosion of white and red light blasts the NPC backward, his body recoiling from the brutal impact. Saw Bigging gets hit by burst adulterated terror as his entire body shakes like a leaf. Frozen stiff in the narrow canyon, the undead guy lets out a confused noise that sounds like a broken kettle. A disembodied voice cuts through the silence, demanding to know exactly where the hell they are. Wrapped in bandages with one glowing red eye, the zombie grimaces while wondering what kind of dark magic just wrecked him. A colossal, multi-headed demon with sharp horns looms overhead, blocking out the moon with its sheer mass. With his back turned, the bandaged figure stands still as purple particles drift lazily around his black ponytail. Baring sharp teeth and glaring with intense hostility, the zombie radiates enough anger to power a small city. The ground erupts in a massive fiery explosion, sending debris flying as a glowing orange ring drops from above. Chaos reigns as violent flames and jagged rocks obscure everything in a thick cloud of smoke. Zombie lunges into a horde of monsters while the elder raises their weapons to defend against the overwhelming assault. Standing atop a pile of defeated bodies in the rain, the zombie surveys the scattered corpses with cold indifference. He observes a row of cylindrical tanks filled with green fluid and submerged figures, ignoring the massive red sound effect screaming in the foreground. Clutching his chest, the zombie screams as a violent red and orange aura signals a gruesome transformation. A single turquoise eye stares intensely, its dilated pupils surrounded by swirling energy and ominous red markings. A massive mound of purple-hued skulls and bones piles high, creating a grim monument under the dark, rainy sky. Horned entity wreathed in blazing flames glares with glowing red eyes, radiating an oppressive aura of heat and power. A gray-skinned monster roars with its mouth wide open, exposing rows of razor-sharp white teeth. Gripping its face with clawed hands, the zombie screams in agony, its glowing red eyes wide with torment amidst the pouring rain. Saw Bigging stands behind the writhing creature, watching it convulse and emit guttural sounds of pure pain. Panting heavily with his back turned, our boy casually asks how that felt. A voice declares this is the future experienced in 10 years, while a bandaged hand trembles and drips water into the void. The bandaged fist clenches tightly, with white impact lines emphasizing the sheer physical strain of the grip. Collapsing onto the ground, the zombie clutches Saw Bigging's leg and stammers out a desperate plea to be killed. Saw Bigging stares with wide, shocked eyes, reacting in silent horror to the unexpected request. Tears stream down the bandaged face as the zombie tilts his head back, baring teeth in agony while begging for death. Frozen with a conflicted expression, Saw Bigging finds himself unable to strike the pleading monster. Lowering his weapon with a pained look, he refuses to deliver the final blow to the suffering creature. His hand trembles as he stares at the monster, completely unable to bring himself to end its misery. Motionless with his weapon lowered, Sabigang continues to stare at the pleading monster with deep internal conflict. Still frozen in place, he gazes at the monster, wrestling with a moral dilemma that hits harder than any punch. Finally lowering his weapon completely, he stares at the monster, his expression a mix of pity and confusion. In a sudden twist, Sabigang raises his weapon and strikes the monster, ending its life with a decisive blow. Standing over the fallen body, he breathes heavily, staring at his trembling hands with shock and regret. Overwhelmed by nausea, Sabigang drops to his knees and vomits violently onto the ground. Wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, he struggles to regain composure, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Rising to his feet, he steadies himself, his expression hardening as he prepares to face the approaching horde. Sabigang stands firm with a hardened gaze as the horde of zombies closes in, their glowing red eyes locked on him. Launching himself into the air, his maroon robe billows as he prepares to strike the approaching zombie. Descending from the sky, he extends his leg in a powerful kick that strikes the zombie squarely in the chest. Landing gracefully on the ground, his maroon robe settles around him as he stands ready for the next attack. Pivoting sharply, his robe swirls as he delivers a spinning kick to another approaching zombie. Standing firm amidst the chaos, his maroon robe billows as he prepares to strike again without hesitation. He strikes a zombie with a powerful palm thrust, sending the creature flying backward into its own horde. Landing gracefully, his maroon robe settles as he surveys the remaining zombie horde with a determined gaze. Sabigang stands ready with his palm raised, facing the advancing zombie horde with a focused expression. Thrusting his palm forward, he strikes a zombie and sends it crashing into the surrounding crowd of monsters. Standing amidst the fallen horde, his maroon robe settles as he surveys the aftermath with a calm demeanor. The elder approaches with a stern expression, asking if the protagonist is unharmed after the brutal battle. Facing the elder, Sabigang confirms he is unharmed, maintaining his calm demeanor amidst the scattered remains. The elder nods in acknowledgement, his stern expression softening slightly as he assesses the situation. Turning his gaze toward the distant horizon, the elder observes the lingering smoke with a contemplative expression. Pointing toward the distant smoke, he warns that more enemies are approaching fast. Looking toward the horizon with determination, Sabigang prepares to face the incoming threat head-on. Drawing his sword, he charges forward to meet the approaching horde of zombies with lethal intent. Flashing through the horde, he severs limbs and heads as he cuts a bloody path forward. Standing amidst the fallen zombies, he breathes heavily as he surveys the carnage he just created. The elder stands with arms crossed, watching Sabigang from a distance with a stern, unreadable expression. Approaching with a stern gaze, the elder demands to know if the young man understands the weight of his actions. Meeting the elder's gaze calmly, Sabigang states that he fully understands the consequences of his power. Narrowing his eyes, the elder warns that arrogance will lead to downfall, but Sabigang remains unmoved by the threat. Standing with arms crossed, Sabigang maintains a stoic silence as the elder glares at him with visible frustration. Turning away, the elder signals the end of their confrontation with a dismissive wave of his hand. Watching the elder depart, Sabigang keeps his expression calm and completely unreadable. Standing alone in the empty courtyard, his gaze remains fixed on the path where the elder disappeared. Remaining in the courtyard, he keeps his calm expression as he watches the empty path stretch out before him. Turning his head slightly, his calm expression shifts as he senses a presence lurking behind him. Turning fully to face the approaching horde, his hand rests on the hilt of his weapon as he prepares for combat. Drawing his sword, he slashes through the approaching zombies, severing their limbs as they collapse to the ground. Standing amidst the fallen zombies, his sword still drawn, he surveys the remaining threats with cold precision. With his sword raised, he stares down the remaining zombies as they lunge toward him with reckless abandon. Swinging his sword in a wide arc, he cleaves through the lunging zombies as their bodies disintegrate into ash. Lowering his sword, he breathes heavily as the last of the zombies crumble into dust around him. Sheathing his sword, he turns to face the elder, who watches him with a stern, judging expression. The elder stares down at Sabigang with a cold, unyielding gaze, silently judging the protagonist's performance. Meeting the elder's gaze with a steady expression, Sabigang stands firm amidst the dissipating dust of the defeated monsters. Narrowing his eyes, the elder demands to know if Sabigang truly believes he has mastered the technique, while our hero remains silent under the intense scrutiny. We open on a fancy traditional building because apparently budget isn't an issue here. Gok Boak absolutely demolishes Tan Lijung's torso with a punch that screams internal damage. Tan chokes on his own pride, eyes bulging as tears instantly betray his tough guy act. He crumples to his knees, coughing up lungs while Gok looms over him like a disappointed dad. Arms crossed and stern, Gok declares their external arts training is nowhere near finished. Looking up with watery eyes, Tan begs for mercy while clutching his chest in pure distress. Gok grins menacingly, joking that bystanders might mistake this torture for actual bullying. Sabigang thrusts a fist forward, forcing Tan to cower and stammer about his clan's swordsmanship. Gok's jaw drops as he asks if he really just heard one-star sword clan come out of that mouth. A mocking voice cuts in, questioning if Tan actually wants to keep learning such trash techniques. Sabigang clenches his fist, vibrating the air with enough tension to snap a guitar string. Gok leans in aggressively, shouting at Tan to stop clenching his fists before things get worse. His eyes go wide and intense as he adds a chilling, if not, to the threat. Looming over the broken staff and broken spirit, Gok asks if they should duel again right now. Yon Wookyung touches the ground, stammering in disbelief that this nightmare is actually happening. With his back turned, Yon commands Gok to stop, ending the spectacle in the tavern. Yon sternly reminds everyone that exams are coming, so unnecessary commotions need to cease. Gok grimaces, telling them to count their lucky stars, while Yon agrees it's finally enough. Sweating bullets, Tan looks up and stammers a shaky thank you to the silent savior. Yon turns his head slightly, saying absolutely nothing in the dimly lit room. He stands with his back turned, radiating an aura of leave me alone. Tan stares forward, stunned into silence by the sheer weight of what just went down. Sa Bigeng raises a hand, casually asking if these are the famous cadets he's heard about. Yon addresses a hesitant servant, who explains that Vice Academy Master Chen Semyoung sent a message. Gok spins around, shouting in disbelief that they're being transferred out of Camellia class. Sa Bigeng stands before the group, creating a tense atmosphere as they stare back seriously. He smiles broadly, welcoming them and declaring himself their new instructor effective immediately. Sweat beads on Sa Bigeng's temple as he asks what's going on, while Yon lets out a dismissive laugh. Gok shouts for everyone to stop messing around, shocking Tan and the other cadets nearby. Enraged, Gok complains that the class change was bad enough without getting a half-assed instructor. Tan raises a hand to his chin, yelling that he refuses to listen to such a shitty order. Sa Bigeng turns sternly, noting that Cadet Gok Boak's choice of words is quite insolent. Veins popping, Gok screams for the instructor to fuck off, refusing to learn from a newbie. Sa Bigeng just smirks confidently, looking way too comfortable in his purple robe. Intricate purple magical circles glow on his hand as he activates a spell mid-conversation. He vanishes in a blur of purple energy, leaving Gok staring at empty space while rules are cited. A sweat drop rolls down Gok's cheek as he mutters, "What?" in total confusion. The stone floor shatters violently, sending jagged debris flying from a massive impact crater. Gok leans in with a manic expression, screaming directly into Tan's face until he recoils. Sa Bigeng stands with his back turned as Gok kneels on the shattered ground, gritting his teeth. Gok shouts him, in pure fury, emphasizing his rage while stuck on the broken tiles. Fist wreathed in swirling orange flames punches forward with explosive, destructive force. Gok lunges with glowing red eyes, screaming insults as he unleashes the dragon tiger mountain-splitting fists. Sa Bigeng blocks the fiery strike with his arm guard, sternly noting that violence against superiors is unacceptable. Purple energy wave crashes into Gok, who grimaces in shock as Sa Bigeng forbids unauthorized internal arts. Sweat drips from Gok's face as he suffers the heavy blow, with a voice promising the worst is yet to come. Sa Bigeng drives a glowing red fist into Gok's chest, making blood spray from the impact point. Gok screams in agony, his face contorted in extreme pain with bloodshot eyes wide open. Sa Bigeng thrusts his gloved fist forward with a smirk, dismissing the opponent's skills as pathetic. He unleashes a rapid barrage of glowing red punches, engulfing Gok in a flurry of violent sparks. Final devastating blow sends Gok flying backward, accompanied by a massive red impact explosion. Gok grits his teeth as he crashes into the ground, creating a violent explosion of dust and debris. Glaring upward with intense eyes, Gok raises a hand to his head and calls out, "Hey." Sa Bigeng stands over the kneeling cadet, commanding him to get up because guidance isn't over. Han sweats and stares in shock, exclaiming how this unilateral beatdown can possibly be happening. Sa Bigeng grins sinisterly, remarking that top-ranked Gok is losing like a child in a playground fight. Gok grits his teeth furiously, shouting that his opponent is a total son of a bitch. Sa Bigeng strikes Gok in the face with a glowing red impact, sending him reeling backward instantly. Tan stands shocked with arms crossed, while Sa Bigeng grimaces and lets out a sharp cry of agony. Gok sits slumped and coughing, while Sa Bigeng clicks his tongue at the nasty start to the first class. Gloved hand clenches into a tight fist, the leather creaking under sudden, dangerous tension. Sa Bigeng lifts Gok by the throat, demanding to know who he thinks he is while Gok stares in shock. Gok raises a hand to his forehead in panic, eyes wide with terror and teeth bared in a grimace. The white-armored hand tightens its grip, compressing flesh with a sharp sound effect emphasizing the crush. Sa Bigeng swings a punch toward Yon's head while holding Gok, shocking Tan in the background. Yon stares calmly beneath shadowed eyes, remarking that this action is excessive against a cadet. Sa Bigeng smirks while gripping his weapon, noting that the opponent has finally decided to move. Yon stares grimly as a vision of his past self, the Heavenly Sword Alliance leader, radiates blue energy behind him. Yon Wookyoung, the Camellia-class disciple and second son of the prestigious Yon clan. Gok Boak stands over a broken sword, having been recognized as a martial arts genius who displayed overwhelming skill among Dragon Spring Academy's new students. His talent exceeded the Academy's limits, making him the youngest supreme peak martial master at age 20. He should have lived a brilliant life revered as one of the absolute martial masters of the Central Plains, but that brilliant fate was contingent on one massive if. The demons had never appeared before. He participated in more battles than anyone else from the early stages of the demon invasion. The Yong clan was annihilated by demons, with all members except him brutally slaughtered. Yet he did not collapse in despair or grief like others. Clutching his bloody arm, he glared with sweat-drenched intensity at a large hand reaching toward him in desperate defiance. He journeyed across the Central Plains fighting demons to form an allied force transcending orthodox and unorthodox sects. He commanded the remaining fighters in a desperate final resistance against overwhelming odds. He still remembers it. He cut down even the largest monsters in an instant with a dazzling arc of blue energy. He was undoubtedly the hero and final hope of the Central Plains. Although, Akboak glares intensely, declaring the opponent is merely another snobbish noble brat from a prestigious clan. Leaning forward with a smirk, he taunts the disciple for finally moving while being identified as young Master Yon Wookyoung. His hand snaps forward to strike the disciple's fingers, causing a sharp impact as their hands collide. Crossing his arms, he remarks the situation is amusing while addressing Instructor Sa Bigeng, prompting surprise at how suddenly strong the assistant instructor has become. He remarks that the development is unexpected while the disciple pants heavily in front of him. Turning his head, he asks if the instructor has finally realized something. The disciple stares intently at Gok Boak, remaining silent as the tension thickens. Lowering his gaze, he admits that he has indeed realized the truth. He looks down with a somber expression, acknowledging the weight of his realization. Lifting his head to meet Gokboak's gaze, his expression hardens with resolve as he prepares to speak. He stares intently at Gokboak, his expression serious and unyielding. He speaks firmly, demanding that Gokboak leave immediately. Gokboak remains motionless, his sharp eyes fixed on the disciple with an unreadable expression. Turning away, he walks toward the exit, ignoring the demand to leave. He continues walking away with his back turned, completely disregarding the order. Stopping abruptly, he turns his head slightly to glance back. He glances back with a cold expression, silently refusing to acknowledge the demand. Turning fully to face the disciple, he demands to know why he is being ordered to leave. The disciple stands firm, insisting that Gokboak must depart immediately. Gokboak narrows his eyes in defiance, refusing to move from his spot. Pointing toward the exit, the disciple commands Gokboak to leave without further delay. Gokboak remains stationary with a defiant glare, refusing to obey the order. Stepping forward, the disciple demands that Gokboak cease his insolence and depart immediately. Standing firm with arms crossed, Gokboak maintains his defiant glare and refuses to leave. The disciple glares and demands he leave immediately, but Gokboak remains unmoved. Drawing his sword, the disciple points the blade at Gokboak, threatening to kill him if he does not leave. Gokboak remains unmoved with his arms crossed, ignoring the blade pointed at him. The disciple lunges forward with his sword raised, while Gokboak remains stationary. Gokboak catches the sword blade with his bare hand, stopping the attack effortlessly. Tightening his grip on the blade, he forces the disciple to stumble backward from the sudden pressure. Releasing the blade, he steps forward while the disciple regains balance with a wary expression. Standing with arms crossed and a cold gaze, he watches as the disciple remains on guard. Lowering his arms, he turns away, dismissing the confrontation with a cold demeanor. Walking away with his back turned, he leaves the disciple standing alone. The disciple lowers his sword and watches Gokboak depart into the distance. Standing alone, he continues to watch Gokboak depart into the distance. He remains in the empty space, watching Gokboak depart into the distance. Still standing there, he continues to watch Gokboak depart into the distance. He stands alone, watching Gokboak depart into the distance. Continuing to stand in the empty space, he watches Gokboak depart into the distance. Turning away from the departing figure, he walks in the opposite direction. Walking away with a determined expression, he leaves the empty space behind. Striding forward with a resolute gaze, he moves deeper into the surrounding landscape. Continuing forward with a steady pace, his expression remains calm and focused. Halting his advance, he scans the horizon with narrowed eyes, assessing the terrain ahead. Standing still with his arms crossed, he observes the distant horizon with a contemplative expression. Turning his head to the side, he looks back with a calm expression. Facing forward with a neutral expression, he stands still in the open terrain. Standing in the open terrain, he observes his surroundings with a neutral expression. He remains in the open terrain, observing his surroundings with a neutral expression. Standing in the open terrain, he observes his surroundings with a neutral expression. He stands in the open terrain, observing his surroundings with a neutral expression. Standing in the open terrain, he observes his surroundings with a neutral expression. He stands in the open terrain, observing his surroundings with a neutral expression. Turning his head slightly to the side, he looks back with a focused gaze. Standing in the open terrain, he observes his surroundings with a neutral expression. He stands in the open terrain, observing his surroundings with a neutral expression. Standing in the open terrain, he observes his surroundings with a neutral expression. Scream of pure despair echoes through the courtyard, shattering the peace. One disciple is absolutely losing his mind over the sudden change in instructors. Grabbing Sa Bigang's arm, he demands to know why he's being forced into a public duel with Yeon Wookyoung. Our hero just smirks and gives a thumbs up, claiming the other guy needs to win to prove his worth. The disciple protests, asking what possible benefit he gets from getting dragged into this mess. Sa Bigang's grin turns sinister as he casually drops the bomb that it's all for revenge. The disciple stares in total disbelief, wondering if he heard that right. Future disciple leans in, asking if he remembers getting wrecked by some big bastard, which shocks the guy into admitting he does. With a dark smirk, future disciple asks how good it felt to finally beat up that jerk recently. Sa Bigang slams a red energy blast into the ground, taunting him about the thrill of the fight. He narrows his eyes, pressing further to see if there's more to the disciple's reaction. Leaning in with a creepy grin, he asks if the disciple is angry he couldn't get his own revenge. As bloodshot and manic, Sa Bigang quotes his own boast about Gokboak and asks what happens if the disciple becomes strong enough to crush Yeon Wookyoung himself. He looms over a battered figure, stating that even someone like him could take revenge with his own hands. Sa Bigang raises his hands with a shadowed grin, suggesting this outcome would be a nice gift to his past self. His gaze lowers and he starts a conditional sentence with a chilling if. Confidence radiates from him as he declares he'll do it if the disciple can truly become that strong. Clenching his fists, the disciple declares he doesn't care about Gokboak, he just wants to be stronger. Sa Bigang flashes a menacing, toothy grin and accepts the challenge, saying they'll see what happens. Wooden training dummy stands there looking absolutely defeated with X's for eyes. Perched on the roof, Sa Bigang watches the disciple swing a wooden blade at the dummy below. Sitting seriously on the tiles, he announces it's time to check the guy's skill level. Gripping the sword tightly, the disciple is commanded to imagine fighting Yeon Wookyoung and go all out. He swings with fierce determination, channeling every ounce of his martial arts prowess into the strike. Panting heavily, the disciple looks up at Sa Bigang, who is judging him from above. Sa Bigang looks down with a critical eye, analyzing the exhausted student below. Descending from the roof, Sa Bigang critiques the sloppy form, making the disciple flinch in fear. Standing right in front of him, Sa Biging tears into his technique, causing the disciple to recoil. Raising his wooden sword, Sa Biging demands he defend himself as the disciple cowers in terror. The wooden sword comes down hard, striking the disciple and sending him collapsing in pain. Standing over the fallen student, Sa Biging coldly remarks that he's too slow to survive. The disciple clutches his head in agony while Sa Biging looms over him with zero empathy. Sa Biging raises the sword high, preparing to deliver the final blow to the prone victim. The sword crashes down and the disciple flinches in pure terror as it connects. The disciple lies unconscious on the ground while Sa Biging stares down with a cold expression. Sa Biging continues to stand over the unconscious body, completely unmoved. He turns away, leaving the knocked-out disciple behind without a second thought. Walking away, Sa Biging leaves the guy lying there like trash. He keeps walking, not even glancing back at the unconscious form. Sa Biging strides away, abandoning the disciple on the floor. Still walking, he leaves the unconscious student in the dust. Mid-step, Sa Biging pauses and glances back at the unconscious body. He turns fully to face the still form, observing it with a cold, calculating look. Standing over the unconscious disciple, Sa Biging maintains an indifferent expression. He continues to stare down with zero emotion on his face. The cold, indifferent gaze remains fixed on the unconscious student. Finally turning away, Sa Biging walks toward the exit. He walks away, leaving the disciple lying motionless on the ground. Sa Biging exits the training hall, leaving the unconscious body behind. The disciple lies alone and unconscious on the empty hall floor. Future disciple enters and discovers the unconscious body on the floor. Kneeling beside him, future disciple checks his pulse with a concerned look. He lifts the disciple into his arms, straining under the weight as he prepares to move him. Carrying the unconscious student out, future disciple wears a grim expression of concern. He moves through the hallway, still carrying the dead weight with a worried look. The grim journey continues through the hallway with no change in expression. Future disciple keeps carrying the disciple, maintaining his serious demeanor. He proceeds through the hallway, his face etched with concern. Setting the disciple down, future disciple's grim look softens into relief. Standing over him, future disciple watches as the disciple sits up with terrified eyes. Kneeling beside him, future disciple asks if he's okay while the disciple stares in fear. The disciple trembles on the floor, too scared to even respond to the concern. Future disciple stands up and demands he get up, but the disciple remains seated in terror. Still sitting on the floor, the disciple stares up in silent fear. Lowering his wooden sword, future disciple asks again if he's alright, but the disciple stays frozen. Scrambling to his feet, the disciple apologizes profusely while future disciple watches neutrally. Raising his wooden sword, future disciple commands him to prepare for the next round. The disciple raises his hands defensively, trembling as he stares at the incoming threat. Future disciple swings down hard, striking the disciple and sending him collapsing in pain. Lying on the ground, clutching his head, the disciple suffers while future disciple stands over him. Lowering his sword, future disciple looks down at the student curled up in agony. Standing over the prone figure, future disciple holds his sword at his side with a stern look. He raises the wooden sword high, preparing to strike the helpless disciple again. We're staring through a dark oval void into a painfully bright blue sky. That same sky is framed by darkness, accompanied by the sound of someone wheezing like a broken accordion. A disciple is sprawled on his back, mouth agape and sweat flying as he coughs up a lung. He's panting heavily on the ground, wondering why his body just quit on him while a voice casually asks how he's feeling. Gasping that he's completely drained, he gets told it's just a minor side effect from channeling full power for the first time. Sa Biging explains that the kid's unadapted body went into shock because he'd never properly used his mind meridians before. Our hero reassures him the symptoms will vanish in a few months, prompting the disciple to exhale in relief and mutter that he gets it. Panic sets in immediately as the disciple interrupts to clarify that the duel is in 1 week, not several months. Sunlight hits the empty training grounds, illuminating rows of wooden dummies waiting to be destroyed. Jagged brown shockwave tears across the screen with a heavy, bone-jarring impact. The disciple stares upward with twitching, sweating eyes as a voice declares he's currently facing 2 massive problems. He lunges forward with teal energy, explaining that unleashing a technique burns all stored inner energy in one go, causing his counterpart to collapse from recoil. Voice warns that his energy core is too small to sustain storage without risking collapse or deviation, which is strictly forbidden. Gripping a wooden sword with both hands, sweat dripping down his face, the disciple nervously confirms he understands the lecture so far. Sa Biging swings a staff forcefully, dismissing the concern as small stuff and urging the kid to think about what really matters. Resting the staff on his shoulder, Sa Biging states energy storage only begins after the duel starts and asks how long gathering took earlier, getting a hesitant reply of roughly 7 minutes. Smiling confidently, our boy asks how exactly the disciple plans to hold off Yeon Sa Wookyung for that long. Sweating bullets, the disciple panics and asks what he's supposed to do. Tightening his grip on the wooden staff, he declares that there is only one answer. Sa Biging lunges with glowing purple eyes, swinging aggressively and shouting that the kid needs to dodge like hell until he gathers it all. A powerful blow sends the disciple reeling backward as he cries out in pure pain. Coiling with a sweat-drenched, shocked expression, he shouts in panic to know what the hell is happening. With an intense expression, Sa Biging commands him to focus and start gathering energy while keeping his his eyes locked on the opponent's weapon. Gritting his teeth, the disciple concentrates, gathering energy in his hands as he steadies himself against the force of the attack. He releases the gathered energy in a bright blast, pushing back the incoming strike while Saw Bigging watches with a focused gaze. Standing amidst the dissipating energy and breathing heavily, the disciple earns a satisfied nod from his mentor. Exhaustion wins as he collapses to his knees, while Saw Bigging approaches with a calm demeanor. Saw Bigging extends a hand toward the kneeling disciple, offering assistance with a composed expression. The disciple grasps Saw Bigging's hand and pulls himself up, regaining his footing with a determined look. He stands upright and faces Saw Bigging, who maintains his usual calm demeanor. The two stand facing each other in heavy silence. The disciple charges forward with a raised fist while Saw Bigging prepares to intercept the attack. The fist connects with Saw Bigging's raised arm, creating a shockwave that ripples through the air. Saw Bigging deflects the blow with his forearm, forcing the disciple to stumble back from the impact. Regaining balance, the disciple glares at Saw Bigging, who stands ready in a defensive stance. He lunges forward with a fierce punch, but Saw Bigging blocks the strike cleanly with his forearm. They lock arms in a stalemate, faces inches apart as they strain against each other's strength. Muscles straining, they remain locked in the stalemate, pushing against each other with equal force. Breaking the stalemate, both leap backward to create distance between them. They stand apart, breathing heavily as they assess each other from a distance. The disciple lunges with a swift kick aimed at Saw Bigging, who raises his arms to block the incoming strike. Saw Bigging blocks the kick with his forearms, absorbing the impact while maintaining a steady stance. He pushes the disciple back with a forceful counterattack, creating distance as they reset their stances. Both stand in defensive stances, eyes locked on each other as they assess the next move. The disciple lunges with a swift punch, forcing Saw Bigging to lean back and evade the strike. Saw Bigging blocks the punch with his forearm, halting the attack as they stand locked in close combat. Saw Bigging sweeps the disciple's legs out from under him, sending the brown-haired male crashing to the ground. Standing over the fallen disciple with a triumphant smirk, Saw Bigging declares that the match is over. The disciple lies on the ground looking up at Saw Bigging, who stands over him with that same triumphant smirk. Saw Bigging stands over the fallen disciple, reiterating that the match is officially over. Remaining on the ground, the disciple stares up at Saw Bigging with a surprisingly determined expression. He rises to his feet, glaring at Saw Bigging with renewed determination. Charging forward with a clenched fist, he aims a powerful strike at Saw Bigging, who raises his arms to block. The fist connects with Saw Bigging's raised arms, forcing the latter to slide backward across the ground from the impact. Saw Bigging stabilizes his stance after sliding back, glaring at the disciple with intense focus. He lunges forward with a swift kick aimed at the disciple, who raises his forearm guard to deflect the blow. The disciple blocks Saw Bigging's kick with his forearm guard, holding his ground firmly against the impact. Pushes Saw Bigging back with a forceful counterattack, creating distance between them. Saw Bigging skids backward across the ground, struggling to regain his balance after being repelled by the counterattack. Steadying himself, Saw Bigging glares at the disciple and demands to know what kind of trickery was used against him. Disciple stands calmly with arms crossed, staring down at Saw Bigging without uttering a word. Remaining motionless with arms crossed, he maintains a silent and imposing stance as he continues to stare down Saw Bigging. Saw Bigging rises to his feet and demands an explanation for the strange technique, while the disciple remains silent with arms crossed. Crossing his arms, the disciple explains that the technique is just a basic movement, leaving Saw Bigging staring in disbelief at the simplicity. Clenching his fists in frustration, Saw Bigging questions how such a simple move could be so powerful while the disciple watches calmly. Maintaining his calm demeanor, the disciple states that power lies in execution, causing Saw Bigging to lower his fists in contemplation. Saw Bigging raises his hand to strike, demonstrating the basic movement with focused intensity. He strikes the air with a sharp motion, creating a visible shockwave that ripples outward. Standing with his arm extended, Saw Bigging observes the fading shockwave as the disciple watches with a neutral expression. The disciple steps forward with a determined gaze, raising his hand to mimic the previous strike. The disciple starts sweating bullets, his face twisted in tension as he stammers out a nervous opening line. "Start!" screams the referee, snapping Saw Bigging into a crouch as he grips his wooden sword with laser focus. Opposite him, the other guy is practically vibrating with stress, sweat pouring down his face as he exhales sharply to brace for impact. Zero hesitation, the disciple swings his wooden sword downward with fierce intensity, aiming for a clean hit. But instead of a clash, blood splatters across his face and a bandage peels off, leaving him staring in wide-eyed confusion. Blood droplets hang suspended in the air, marking the brutal aftermath of a strike that landed way too fast to see. Disciple grips his sword with trembling, sweat-drenched hands while a voice coldly commands him to surrender right now. Dark armored gauntlets squeeze the hilt tight, while an internal monologue freaks out over the fact that his arm is still attached. Saw Bigging turns his back on the crowd, casually calling the disciple a fool while the guy tries to maintain a defensive stance. Spins around with a stern look, asking if the shaking wreck in front of him still wants to fight after barely handling the murderous intent. Gripping his hilt with both hands, Saw Bigging makes the blade vibrate, wondering if that earlier pressure was actually just his imagination. A red eye glows as he lunges, smashing through the guard with a burst of dark energy, proving he definitely wasn't imagining it. Sweat drips down his face as he trembles, admitting he can't hold back, even though everyone thinks he's the Academy's golden boy. He stands with his back turned again, again, watching his opponent glow with a white aura while the crowd watches the standoff unfold. Sabigeng closes his eyes, wearing a faint, resigned smile that suggests he's already accepted how this is going to end. Purple flames surge around him as he grips his sword, his expression shifting from resignation to calm, terrifying confidence. The disciple stares forward, eyes wide and trembling, letting out a nervous laugh that sounds more like a death rattle. He exhales sharply, closing his eyes to center himself and remind his panic-stricken brain of the actual situation at hand. Clenching his fists with pure determination, he declares that he needs to become stronger than he is right now, no matter the cost. Green energy flares around his body and blade, marking the exact moment he decided to stop being a pushover. Sabigeng exhales a visible breath, looking down and calling his opponent an idiot for rejecting the chance to leave uninjured. Grips his sword hilt with both hands and leans forward, locking into a combat stance ready to deliver the final blow. A blinding white explosion erupts from the ground, sending shockwaves and debris flying in a violent burst of raw power. Sabigeng leaps through the air, declaring that the disciple brought this pain on himself as he descends toward the waiting target. Disciple looks up midair, raising a single hand to block the descending sword strike with seemingly zero effort. He catches the blade with his bare hand, stopping the strike dead in its tracks while staring intensely at his shocked opponent. With a simple twist, he wrenches the sword from Sabigeng's grip, forcing the attacker to stumble backward in total disbelief. Standing firm with the captured weapon, the disciple glares at Sabigeng, who recoils like he's just seen a ghost. He hurls the sword back at Sabigeng, who flinches and raises his arms defensively as the blade spins dangerously through the air. Sabigeng snatches the spinning sword by the hilt, his sharp gray eyes narrowing as he forces himself to regain composure. Grips the recovered weapon tightly, locking eyes with the disciple as renewed hostility floods his system. Without wasting a second, he lunges forward with the sword raised high, aiming a devastating downward strike at his foe. The disciple simply sidesteps the attack, causing Sabigeng to crash face-first into the ground with his sword stuck in the stone. Calmly standing over the pinned protagonist, the disciple looks down with the casual arrogance of someone who just won. Sabigeng glares up with glowing red eyes, demanding to know how the hell he dodged such a perfect attack. Looking down with a calm expression, the disciple states that speed is completely meaningless without precision. Turns away from Sabigeng, leaving him pinned to the ground in humiliating silence. Sabigeng remains stuck, glaring upward with glowing red eyes as the disciple walks away without a second glance. He struggles against the ground, his fiery gaze fixed on the retreating back with intense, burning fury. Finally rising from the dirt, Sabigeng locks onto the disciple with murderous intent radiating from his glowing red eyes. He lunges forward, closing the distance instantly as his red eyes promise nothing but pain. The disciple pivots to face the charge, raising his wrist guards in a defensive stance to counter the imminent strike. Sabigeng throws a glowing red fist, forcing the disciple to block the heavy blow with his reinforced wrist guards. The disciple pushes back against the glowing fist, straining visibly under the immense force of the impact. Gritting his teeth, he shoves Sabigeng backward, breaking the stalemate with a forceful repel that creates space. He stands firm with his guards raised, glaring at Sabigeng, who retreats slightly from the failed assault. Sabigeng lunges again with a glowing red fist, forcing the disciple to raise his wrist guards in immediate defense. Sparks fly as the disciple blocks the glowing fist, holding his ground firmly against Sabigeng's relentless assault. Sabigeng withdraws his fist and steps back, creating some much-needed distance between himself and the wall-like opponent. The disciple stands firm, watching Sabigeng retreat into the shadows with his wrist guards still raised and ready. Sabigeng charges forward with another glowing red fist, aiming directly at the disciple who braces for impact. Blocks the glowing fist with his wrist guards, sparks flying as he grits his teeth against the overwhelming force. Sabigeng retracts his fist and steps back, glaring with sharp gray eyes as the sparks from their clash dissipate. The disciple lowers his guards and stares back with intense gray eyes, the air still thick with residual energy from the clash. Sabigeng lunges forward again with his glowing red fist, aiming for a hit while the disciple braces for the incoming strike. The disciple blocks the glowing fist with his wrist guards, the impact creating a shockwave that ripples through the air. Sabigeng retracts his fist and steps back, while the disciple remains in a defensive stance with his wrist guards raised. Lowering his guards, the disciple stares at Sabigeng with intense gray eyes, assessing the opponent's next move in the tense silence. Sabigeng lunges forward with his glowing red fist aimed at the disciple, who braces himself for the incoming strike. The disciple blocks Sabigeng's glowing red fist with his wrist guards, creating a shockwave that distorts the air around them. Pushes back against the glowing red fist, forcing the attacker to slide backward across the ground from the sheer pressure. Sabigeng stands firm with his glowing red fist extended, glaring intensely at the disciple who remains braced in a defensive stance. Suddenly, the disciple charges forward with his fist raised, aiming a powerful counterstrike directly at Sabigeng. Fist connects squarely with Sabigeng's face, sending the protagonist flying backward through the air like a ragdoll. Sabigeng crashes into the ground hard, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris from the brutal impact. He lies motionless on the ground, surrounded by the settling dust and debris of his own defeat. Slowly, Sabigeng pushes himself up from the ground, glaring at the disciple with renewed hostility and bruised pride. He lunges forward with glowing red eyes, attempting to strike the disciple, who remains stationary and completely composed. The disciple blocks the strike with his wrist guard, maintaining a calm expression as the impact sends shockwaves through the air. Counters with a swift kick to Sabigeng's chest, sending him stumbling backward across the training ground like a novice. Sabigeng regains his footing and glares at the disciple with glowing red eyes, radiating intense hostility and confusion. He lunges forward again with glowing red eyes, aiming a fierce punch at the disciple who seems unimpressed. Disciple blocks the punch with his forearm, the impact creating a shockwave that ripples through the air around them. He counters Sabigeng's attack with another swift kick to the chest, sending him stumbling backward once more. more. Sabiging recovers his balance and glares at the disciple with glowing red eyes, demanding to know how he blocked every single strike. The disciple stands firm with his arms crossed, silently staring down Sabiging with intense gray eyes that say it all.